The Ukrainian war has intensified with the start of counteroffensive operations. The main focus of the attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces is the complete recovery of southern Ukraine. When southern Ukraine is recovered, Kiev troops will be able to focus more easily on Crimea to isolate it and make it untenable for Russian forces. Ukraine must use long-range weapons. To put this in perspective, coastal location between Melitopol, Berdyansk, and even Mariupol can reach the prestigious Crimean Bridge near Kerch with long-range weapons. The same will be true for Russian positions on the Crimean coast up to the Sea of Azov and possibly Sevastopol, where the Russian Black Sea Fleet is stationed. In addition, in recent days, as counterattack operations have gained momentum, Ukrainian forces continue to carry out daring attacks on strategic areas. As is known, cutting the enemy's logistics is a classic strategy. If you hit valuable targets, you can neutralize the only advantage of the Russian army, namely its mass. The other day, partisans blew up the railway bridge near the occupied Melitopol. Russian troops used the bridge in the town of Yakimivka to supply weapons from Crimea. It was noted that the bridge served as part of the arms supply artery from Crimea to the Zaporizhia region. At least 6 explosions were heard near the Russian-occupied Melitopol in the Zaporizhia Oblast last week. According to the exiled mayor of the city, Ivan Fedorov, 5 explosions were heard in Melitopol. The explosions caused heavy smoke in the north of Melitopol. At least 1 explosion was also reported on a railway in the Dolinska district near Melitopol. Russian forces used this railway to transport military equipment and personnel. The biggest purpose of the Ukrainian armed forces attacking the railways is to disrupt Russia's supply lines. Another target for Ukrainian attacks is Berdyansk. Berdyansk is a port city on the southern coast of Ukraine, located on the coast of the Sea of Azov. The port city has been occupied by Russian forces since the early days of the conflict. Berdyansk had previously been targeted by Ukrainian forces. The city is located on the coast near Mariupol, a region believed to be among the places that Ukraine will try to retake in its counterattack. A large cloud of smoke was seen rising from the port area in the Sea of Azov. Russian state media outlet RT stated that there was damage and destruction in the attack, but the precise target was not immediately clear. It was speculated that the attack may have been carried out by British Storm Shadow missiles, long-range cruise missiles with stealth capabilities that the United Kingdom recently supplied to Ukraine. Berdyansk is about 100 kilometers from the front line, deep in Russian-controlled territory. This means that using Storm Shadow missiles would be a possible option. As you can see, the situation in southern Ukraine is quite active. Russian officials and military bloggers say that the Ukrainian army has launched attacks on Russian forces in the key southern Zaporizhia region. It is stated that Ukrainian troops, supported by tanks, artillery, and drones, tried to advance south of the town of Orikhiv on the second night. A senior Ukrainian defense official says Russian troops are on active defense. Several military experts reported that the focus of Ukraine's long-awaited counteroffensive will be Zaporizhia. They claim that Kiev is trying to regain access to the Sea of Azov by dividing the Russian forces in the region into 2 separate groups. This will not only weaken Russia's combat capability, but it would also remove and bridge leading to the southern peninsula of Crimea, which was illegally annexed by Russia in 2014. Ukrainian forces are currently examining Russian positions at several points along the front line and are looking for signs of weakness. On the other hand, the latest success with Storm Shadow missiles took place in the Kherson region recently. The Ukrainian armed forces carried out strong attacks on the Arabatspit, located near the city of Genichesk in the Kherson region, which is the headquarters of Russian forces. The Dnieper and Arabatspit were visited by Vladimir Putin in April. Missiles hit the headquarters of the Brigantina Recreation Center in the village of Chazalet, south of the Genichesk district of the Kherson region. According to available information, the blows were aimed at the grounds of the recreation center. The attacks were captured on camera by local residents. In one of the videos posted on social media platforms, explosion sounds are heard, showing the attacks. Eyewitness videos show at least 3 explosions, one of which occurred in the water. Details and consequences of the attack remain unclear at this stage. However, this activity took place quite far from the front lines. The city of Genichesk, where the attack took place, is located about 30 kilometers from the main battle zone. It is known that British Storm Shadow cruise missiles were used in the attacks. However, the exact target of the Ukrainian army is unknown. Additionally, there is significant activity on the eastern front line, as well as in the south of Ukraine. Ukrainian forces announced that they had recaptured a village in the Russian-occupied Donetsk region. The Russian governor was quick to deny Kiev's statements. According to military information from Kiev, Ukrainian soldiers liberated the town of Blahodate in the Donetsk region, which was largely occupied by Russia. The village is about 40 kilometers southwest of the region's capital, Donetsk, not far from the railway line to the port city of Mariupol. Soldiers released a video showing the Ukrainian flag hoisted over a partially destroyed building. Ukrainian armed forces also made critical gains in Bakhmut. The Ukrainian army took advantage of the rotation of Russian troops and the incomplete knowledge of new troops entering the area. Ukrainian soldiers ensured proper coordination and struck Russian troops on the Bakhmut axis. The Ukrainian army advanced up to 1,400 meters in different areas during the past day. Ukraine had previously been fighting Wagner troops on this front line. Now there are clashes with the motorized rifle and airborne troops of the Russian Federation. Colonel Sergei Sharavathy, spokesman of the Eastern Operation Command, stated that the Ukrainian army launched attacks on Russian positions and counterattacked. Sergei Sharavathy emphasized that the Russians are in rotation and taking advantage of the fact that they are displaced by advanced units. Sharavathy stated that his forces were moving on a train where they would be in more favorable positions than Russian troops. According to him, the Ukrainian armed forces have already captured several hills. On the other hand, the Ukrainian armed forces struck Luhansk, which was temporarily occupied by Russia, with Storm Shadow cruise missiles. In total, 6 explosions occurred in Luhansk, and as a result of the explosions, huge gray smoke rose into the sky. The news of this attack was announced on Twitter and Telegram channels. Storm Shadow cruise missiles hit areas of industrial enterprises such as the October Revolution factory, the Gloria Jeans factory, and the Luhansk Center Cruise factory. Russian soldiers repair damaged military equipment at these enterprises. As previously reported, the Storm Shadow cruise missile flies along a predetermined route. It is impossible to change the route after the launch of the carrier aircraft. On the other hand, there is significant activity in the west of Ukraine. They released a video showing the Ukrainian 130th Brigade attacking Lobkov and successfully capturing the settlement. The video shows the main assault group advancing along 3 tree arches and preparing to enter the settlement using small mortars. Ukrainian forces are able to make rapid attacks on regular Russian defenses and suppress Russian fire. The Ukrainian armed forces were ready to enter the side streets of the settlement after a 5-minute effort. Russian sources said that Ukrainian troops began digging trenches south of the village and preparing fortifications near Pyatakotki. When the Russian troops once again began the artillery bombardment, the Ukrainian forces claimed that they had left the village without fighting. Some sources claim that only one XBT arrived in the village, brought in reinforcements, and evacuated the wounded, leaving the village. The most recent reports indicate that the Russians engaged in clashes with some Ukrainian assault units near Gera, beyond Chi. Counteroffensive operations seem to be moving in Ukraine's favor. It appears that the attacks on the front lines will intensify in the coming days. The performance of Moscow troops in the face of these attacks will paint a clearer picture of the course of the war. Since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, friends and strategic partners of Ukraine have always appeared on the ground and in the background. In this direction, Turkey has become one of the guardian angels of Ukraine, both on the field and in the background, using its geopolitical advantage and good relations with Russia in favor of both the West and Ukraine. Turkey played the leading role in many critical moves. On February 27, 2022, while the West had not yet awakened on the 3rd day of the war, Turkey defined Putin's move as war and closed the Bosphorus to Russian warships. This was the first and perhaps the most critical move of the war. While other partners were hesitant about military assistance, Turkey became the first country to provide drones to Ukraine. This move of Turkey resulted in the Ukrainian forces successfully surviving the first 6 months of the war and making the TB2 legendary on the main stage. Turkey has shown an effort to save millions of lives while spearheading the grain agreements, peace negotiations, and temporary ceasefires. There is always the possibility that the war will prolong and cross borders, and in this case, the two most critical countries will appear on the scene. One of them is Poland and the other is Turkey. Here, Turkey's role is crucial for both NATO and Ukraine at the operational and tactical levels. In the background, Turkey provided critical military and humanitarian assistance to the Ukrainian forces. The Turkish Navy limited these activities of the Russian Navy with very sharp movements to ensure the security of the Black Sea. However, due to Turkey's geopolitical position, the measures taken against Russia were not limited to these. In this context, Turkey sponsored the NATO Rapid Deployable Cause and is a framework country. Right now, the war between Ukraine and Russia is getting more and more fierce. While Ukraine's great offensive brings gains, its framework is gradually taking shape. There is always a risk that the war will cross borders, and Turkey's 120,000 Special Forces cause has been in high preparation for this since December 2022. In 2020, NATO decided to strengthen readiness for Article 5 missions with the concept of a new combat course that provides 5 deployable divisions and 120,000 troops within 20 days for the territorial defense of member states. Headquartered in Istanbul, the NATO Rapidly Deployable Cause Turkey and was approved for this new role in December 2022 and became NATO's designated combat unit for the contingency in 2023. This would technically mean that Turkey would lead NATO's response to any aggression towards the alliance. Turkey has NATO's second largest land army and is one of the strongest armies in the world. There are 450,000 active military personnel in the Turkish army. In the event of a possible crisis, this number may rise even higher. In this context, approximately 550,000 soldiers, together with the NATO cause, are a great deterrent against possible aggressors and enemies in the NATO Eastern Bloc, and a great source of confidence in the alliance. Russia is the most likely source of opposition to it, as it has been identified in NATO's 2022 strategic concept as the most significant and direct threat to Allied security. NATO Rapid Deployable Corps. Turkey is the largest cause in the alliance. The cause is multinational but supported and paid for by one or more frame nations who provide the bulk of the headquarters, personnel, equipment, and financial resources. The cause joins the NATO Response Force NRF, a highly ready and technologically advanced force made up of land, air, naval, and special operations forces components that can be quickly deployed wherever needed. So what kind of help did Turkey provide to Ukraine in the background? Turkey has declined to formally acknowledge the nature and amount of its military aid to Ukraine, but open-source data shows it supports the fight against Russia. Turkey's contributions are geared towards key capabilities, although the material may seem modest when compared to the warplanes and battle tanks supplied by other NATO members. According to the open-source intelligence portal Oryx, Turkey has supplied approximately 35 TB2 UAVs, 24 Bayraktar mini reconnaissance UAVs, TRG-230 guided multiple rocket launchers, 200 BMC Kirpi, MRAP armored vehicles and mortars. Reportedly, 100,000 155mm rounds are currently ordered. According to unconfirmed reports, Turkey has already transferred locally produced cluster munitions defined as dual-purpose developed conventional munitions. Recently, 30 Turkish Otokar-made Cobra 2 4x4 wheeled armored personnel carriers were seen on a freight train in Romania en route to Ukraine. Now let's take a look at Turkey's moves that suppressed Putin in the Black Sea. On a practical level, Turkey deploys a surface ship, a submarine, and a maritime patrol aircraft in the Black Sea around the clock. These assets provide 67% of NATO's accepted maritime picture in the region. In alliance terms, situational awareness or nurture in NATO language. Turkey also forms the backbone of NATO's mine-fighting capabilities to keep the Black Sea safe until Romania's efforts to modernize and expand its submarine and mine countermeasure capabilities bear fruit. NATO will continue to rely on Turkey for regional maritime situational awareness. The Turkish Navy also assumed command of the maritime component of the Allies' Very High Readiness Joint Task Force VEGF in June 2022. Turkey was the first country to declare Russia's move an act of war, with Ukraine's decision to implement Article 19 of the Montreux Convention just 3 days after the invasion. Even more surprisingly, although the Montreux Convention gave the Kremlin the right to do so, Turkey also asked Russia not to recall the Black Sea Fleet ships located elsewhere. Between 20 and 30 ships belonging to the Russian Black Sea Fleet are thought to be elsewhere. 5 or 6 are caliber-capable platforms, and 2 of these are Kilo-class submarines. This forced Russia to send warships in need of maintenance after facing NATO in the Mediterranean to the Pacific, Baltic or Arctic instead of the Black Sea shipyards. On a practical level, Turkey deploys a surface ship, a submarine, and a maritime patrol aircraft in the Black Sea.